What's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Boombox Guru, music commentary and music discussion for music lovers. I'm your host, LB, and we got a very good episode for you guys today. So if you don't want to miss out, tune in and keep it locked in. Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Boombox Guru. I'm your host, LB. And today's episode, we're doing an albums ranked on one of my favorite MCs, known as R.A. the Rugged Man. Some of you probably don't know who he is. He's somewhat of a underground hero in the hip-hop community. He's from Long Island, New York. He's been in the game for probably about 30 years or more. And he has a very interesting story. You know, he got signed to Jive Records back in the early 90s as a teenager. You know, him and his producer at the time, Martin Niles, they were known as a duo known as Crustified Divs. They were set to release a debut album on the label, and it got shelved due to some antics that R.A. the Rugged Man committed, and the label wanting to mold him into something that they wanted him to be, and he rebelled. He ended up getting blackballed from the industry for a number of years in a nutshell, and he ended up going underground and making a huge and successful name for himself. And he's released a few albums, about 4 albums that I all have, and to me they're some of the best albums in hip-hop, and I really enjoy listening to him as an MC. I'm so glad that I got put on to him. So I decided I wanted to talk about these albums and rank them from my not necessarily my best to worst, because I don't think he has any bad records in his discography, but you know, just mainly just to give anybody out there who may not be familiar with R.A. the Rugged Man some insight into his records and the type of MC that he is. So without further ado, we're going to get into this episode of Albums Ranked by R.A. the Rugged Man. So definitely stay tuned and keep it locked in to the Boombox Guru. Peace. Alright, so coming in at number 4, we have the debut album from R.A. the Rugged Man, which is titled Die Rugged Man Die. Now, this is the official debut album from R.A. the Rugged Man. He actually had recorded 2 albums previously to this record. His first album, which was him and his producer known as Crustified Divs, was called Night of the Bloody Apes, which was supposed to come out, I believe, in like 94. And then after his deal with Jive Records went away, he ended up signing, I believe it was either to Columbia or Priority Records, one of those 2 labels, and he recorded a record called American Lowlife. But both of those records ended up getting shelved. And in between that time, I believe he ended up signing to Raucous Records, which that's the label most famous for spearheading the careers of Mos Def and Talib Kweli. And he appeared on a few of the Sound Bombing compilations, but for whatever reason, that deal didn't work out either. So he finally got to release his debut album, Die Rugged Man Die, in 2004 on Nature Sounds. And my opinion, man, it's a solid debut album. I think this was like the last R.A. the Rugged. No, it's not the last one. It was one of the last R.A. the Rugged Man albums I had bought before he came out with his most recent record. So I didn't actually begin with this album because around this time, 2004, I wasn't even really into like underground hip hop that much. If anything, this was probably me in like the beginning stages of going in that direction. But I wasn't really that familiar with R.A. the Rugged Man at this point. I didn't learn about him until years later. But it's a solid record. Like I said before, it's more of like an introduction to who he is, because the album starts off with a song called Lessons, where he sort of gives his life story, not too much detail, but he gives you like a brief history of who he is, where he's come from, like a few of his personal struggles, things he dealt with while being signed to major labels and stuff of that nature. But I think the highlight of the album is the song called A Star Is Born, which this is where R.A. the Rugged Man, he like goes in and he tells in great detail about the whole situation, about him getting signed to a major label and how that whole deal just got screwed up, or how he likes to put it, how he screwed everything up. Because at the time, he was having mental issues, and then the label they was trying to make him do like cookie cutter type raps. They wanted him to be more like radio accessible, and that wasn't the type of artist he wanted to be. He was a hardcore MC. He wanted to do that type of music, so he made songs to basically rebel against the label. And then there's all these rumors and urban legends that floated around during the time, saying that he like took a dump on somebody's desk, or he like smeared diarrhea all over a mixing board. And he just goes into whole details about how everything was good in the beginning when he got signed, and then how people kind of switched up on him after he lost his deal and everything, how he went through depression, and how he pretty much just struggled and everything after he lost his deal. But it's a really good song that gives you the R.A. the Rugged Man story of how he ended up where he was and where he is now at that point in his career. And then you have another song on here called Brawl, where there's this one line in this one verse in the song where he talks about how mainstream rappers, they take from the underground rappers and they run with it. And a lot of people have interpreted that part in the verse as to him taking shots at Eminem. Because if you don't know the history of R.A. the Rugged Man, if his career hadn't went the way that it was supposed to go, he would have been Eminem before Eminem. Because he got his deal, he signed the deal way before Eminem was even thought of. And if you listen to their rap styles, there's kind of a similarity between them. Not necessarily in the cadence or delivery, but R.A. the Rugged Man, he's one of those type of MCs where he says things that are cringy, and not in a corny way, but he just says things that make you kind of shudder, like, oh man, I can't believe he just said that. Same thing with Eminem, at least early Eminem during the Slim Shady era. But he's clarified many times that there's no beef between him and Eminem. There's like a mutual respect. So from what I can take from that song and that particular lines in Brawl, it's just him generally talking about how mainstream rappers, they pay attention and they look and see what the underground artists are doing. And they figure like, well, this is an underground person. Nobody's going to ever hear from them. So we'll just take what they're doing and we'll just run with it. So I think he's just telling that in a general sense. And it's a really cool song too. I like the kind of boom bappish vibe that it really gives. And then the title track, Die Rugged Man Die, that's really cool. It's kind of a funny but self-deprecating song where R.A. is kind of taking shots at, well, it's not kinda, he's taking shots at himself in a very self-deprecating way. He's not above clowning and putting himself down on a lot of these songs. It's really cool or interesting how he does that. But it's one of my favorite songs on the album. And then you got another song on here called How Low that is probably one of the most interesting songs on the album. It sticks out kind of like a sore thumb a little bit because it's different from the other songs on the record. Because this particular song takes more of a rap rock, kind of electro hop type approach. It kind of sounds like something that maybe Africa Bambaataa or something would have done. And it also features Daryl Jennifer from Bad Brains on the song. So I thought that was pretty cool as well, man. But it's a solid debut album. I don't necessarily think it's his best record. Again, this was his official debut album. I don't think it's his best record. A lot of times the production on here, it can get kind of bland and a little repetitive. And I remember when I first bought this CD, it took me a few listens to really get into it. Like, I was listening to it not too long ago because I got on the R.A. kick. And, the more I listened to it, the more I started to find things on the album that I liked about it that I initially didn't pay attention to earlier. So it's just one of those records for me that, it took a few listens for me to really get into it, to really appreciate it more. But I think it was a great start, a great introduction into who R.A. the Rugged Man is. Uh, but it. I don't know if I would necessarily start with this record. I don't think I would recommend starting with this record though. But it is a pretty decent album. So coming in at number 3, we have Legendary Classics Volume 1. This is a pretty interesting pick for me though, because Legendary Classics is actually a compilation album. It's not really a studio album. And so I guess people necessarily wouldn't count this as really an album, but the thing for me is Legendary Classics Volume 1, it compiles a lot of rare R.A. the Rugged Man tracks. Some that were previously unreleased, songs that he did on compilations and maybe soundtracks, and some underground classics that have been remastered and put out on this record officially that were only available as bootlegs in poor quality. So that was really my interest in really getting this particular album. So what I like most about Legendary Classics, and the reason why I put it at number 3 above his actual debut album, is because the way that R.A. handpicked a lot of these songs on this compilation and the way he sequenced the track list, sometimes when I listen to Legendary Classics, I actually forget that this is a compilation album. He did a really good job at putting the track list together and how they sequenced it and the way the tracks just flow so well together. When you listen to this album, it actually feels as though you're listening to a studio album, like a legit follow-up to Die Rugged Man Die. And it was a gap between this record too, because Legendary Classics came out in 2009, so that was 5 years after Die Rugged Man Die. But if you want to get into R.A. the Rugged Man, I definitely would recommend this album as maybe a start, because it's like a retrospective type body of work, in my opinion, because you get a lot of rare tracks and you get some classic songs that he's done, as well as some underground classics that a lot of people only had available as bootlegs, or if they happened to be there at the moment when this stuff was happening. It's like a really cool career retrospective up until that point in his career. And my biggest interest in this record was because it had the song Uncommon Valor, and it had Cunt Renaissance, which featured the Notorious B.I.G., and it had Every Record Label Sucks Dick, which is one of R.A.'s most popular songs. Now, talking about Uncommon Valor, that's actually a Jedi Mind Trick song. Any of you who's familiar with the rap group Jedi Mind Tricks, this song right here, this is what really raised R.A. the Rugged Man's profile, and it really took him to the next level as an MC. His verse on that song, because the song is about Vietnam veterans and, the things that they dealt with being in war. His verse, his guest appearance, his verse on that particular song was a standout, because his whole verse was about his father, Staff Sergeant John A. Thorburn, who was a Vietnam veteran. And R.A. actually raps from the perspective of his father, like what he dealt with while he was in the Vietnam War. And R.A. did such an excellent job at really describing, from his father's perspective, the war, like the violence, the bloodshed, and everything that took place at war, and then all the struggles and adversities that his father faced after he came back home, dealing with Agent Orange and how that affected his family. Because R.A. had some siblings that were born and they had birth defects and illnesses because of Agent Orange, as well as a nephew who was born from his older sister, who ended up dying as a baby because of certain things pertaining to that Agent Orange stuff. So he goes into great detail of how that affected the family and everything. And his verse ended up becoming one of the most revered verses in hip hop. People still talk about that verse today. And that particular song was actually what put me on to R.A. the Rugged Man, because someone that I used to work with actually told me about this song. and they said like if you ever really want to learn how to rap, definitely go listen to R.A. the Rugged Man's verse on Uncommon Valor. So that particular song is really what set me on this page to getting more into him. And then you have the song called Cunt Renaissance, which featured the Notorious B.I.G. And this was a song that appeared on the Night of Bloody Apes album. Yeah, R.A. the Rugged Man knew the Notorious B.I.G. early in his career. And this was around the time when Biggie was really starting to blow up. So R.A.'s label Jive wanted R.A. to do something like a Juicy type song with Biggie. They wanted him to do something that was going to get radio play. And R.A. refused to do that because that's not the type of artist he wanted to be. So in his effort to rebel, he decided to record the most grotesque and nasty song he could think of with Biggie, which is called Cunt Renaissance. And hence the title. I don't think I need to really go into any detail of what the song's about. I mean, just go listen to the song and listen to the hook. It almost has somewhere of like a horrorcore-ish vibe, because horrorcore was it was moderately popular around that time in hip hop when this song was recorded. And it was really interesting to hear Biggie kind of go in that direction as a lyricist, because we all know Biggie was dope as an MC, and he did songs like Suicidal Thoughts and things like that, but it was really cool to hear Biggie going in that direction, and to hear these two MCs going back and forth on the same track. And R.A., he held his own against Biggie. Biggie is quoted as saying, "I thought I was the illest," in reference to R.A. the Rugged Man, which is something that R.A. takes pride in. And then, of course, you had a song on every record label, Sucks Dick. And this right here is the particular song that really got R.A. the Rugged Man blackballed in the industry, because the record labels didn't like that. He was already on thin ice with the labels because of a lot of antics that he was doing because of his mental illness and such. And this pretty much put the nail in the coffin when he did Every Record Label Sucks Dick. I mean, hence the title. He's talking trash about labels, and he's also telling people basically what he's dealing with while being signed to a label. He's talking about how they're trying to turn him into an artist that he don't want to be, how they're trying to stifle him, how they're trying to control everything that he's doing, his creative direction and everything. It's a really good song, and it's one of those early songs that really gives insight into how the major labels treat their artists. And I respect him for that, because that was really bold of him to make a song like that. And look at the cost. He ended up getting blackballed from the industry, but at the same time, it became a classic. It became an underground classic that he still performs live to this day. I think sometimes he kind of gets tired of performing the song, but in any case, it's like his anthem. It's like his signature song. He still performs it live. And one more song that I really dug on this record too is Who's That Guy? Now, Who's That Guy? This is a collaboration between R.A. and Havoc of Mobb Deep. And if you get the CD of Legendary Classics, R.A., he tells a brief story about each song in the liner notes of the CD. And in this particular song, R.A. had pretty much lost his deal with Jive Records. He was really struggling. He was going through depression, and I think he was homeless at the time too. He was broke. And this was around the time when Mobb Deep had took off with the Infamous album, and they was in the process of recording their follow-up record, Hell on Earth. And he was really cool with R.A. He was really cool with Mobb Deep. And Havoc actually gave R.A. the beat to Who's That Guy for free. He gave him that beat for free. It might have been one of the songs that he gave him for free, but yeah, Who's That Guy? He gave R.A. that beat for free to look out for him, and they recorded a classic. And I think it's one of the best beats that Havoc has ever done. And his verse on there is one of the illest. And him and R.A., man, it would be really cool to hear more songs between R.A. and Havoc. It would be even nice if they did an album together, because their chemistry and the way that they just melded together on that song, going back and forth with the lyrics, it was just ill, man. It's a highlight of mine, man. I definitely like to ride to that song because the beat is just so banging. It's one of the highlights of the record, man. And it's definitely a real like R.A. the Rugged Man classic. But yeah, definitely go check out Legendary Classics Volume 1. Cause I think it's one of his illest albums, and it's not even a studio album; it's a compilation album. But it's a great, uh, it's a great body of work in my opinion. And I kind of look at it as sort of like a transition record between or not really a transition record, but more of like a bridge between Die Rugged Man Die and the next album that will come after Legendary Classics. So definitely go peep Legendary Classics Volume 1, because it's a really dope career retrospective of R.A. the Rugged Man. Alright, so coming in at number 2, we have the most recent album from R.A. the Rugged Man, which came out last year in 2020. I think it came out in April of 2020. And this is All My Heroes Are Dead. I actually pre-ordered this album because it was a long gap between this album and the one he did before it. So when he announced that the album was, finished and everything, and he put it up for pre-order, I pre-ordered it. So this is a really good album. And honestly, I think that this is probably R.A.'s most complete album today. So you might be wondering, well, if I think this is a great album, then why did I put it at number 2? Well, here's the thing. It kind of took me a few listens to really get into this record. It wasn't really an album that like grabbed me from the jump when I first put it on. So it took a few listens before I could really just get into the vibe and the mood of what this record was bringing. And not to mention, it's a pretty long album too. It's got 22 tracks. Although there are a few of them that are like skits and interludes, it's got a long track list. So it's a bit to digest in one setting. And not only that, man, but this record, it's a bit of an emotional roller coaster, because you'll get a few songs that have that classic R.A. the Rugged Man, where he's being witty, where he's really being politically incorrect, and he's just saying some really fly lyrics and some witty, funny stuff. But then the next track might be something that kind of brings you down, well, not bring you down in a negative way, but it makes you emotional, because he's talking about some serious stuff, some very serious, introspective stuff that make you want to think. And it kind of, when I first bought this record and listened to it, it was a bit much, kind of going from the witty, kind of fun stuff, and then hearing something that's about something serious that kind of brings tears to your eyes. I didn't really want to feel that way, but I finally decided to just give this album a few listens, and I really like it. I really dig it. But like I said, it's an emotional roller coaster, and that long track list is a lot to take in. I know Mike Seatown from Dead End Hip Hop, if y'all familiar with that channel, they did a review on it, and he brought up something interesting. He said he thought it would have been kind of better if maybe R.A. had to split the album up and maybe put out one half this time and then the next half sometime later down the road. I guess that would have been cool too. But R.A. did what he wanted to do. But there are a few tracks on here I want to talk about. First track on here I want to talk about is Gotta Be Dope. This is probably my favorite on the album. It features R.A.'s protege known as Afro, which is an acronym for All Flows Reach Out. He's a young dude. I think he's probably about around 24 now. I think he was 16 when R.A. Hooked up with him. He won some rap contest that R.A. did a few years ago, and I gotta tell you, I can't wait for Afro to put out an album. And I follow him on Instagram. He's been talking about how his album is in the mixing stages, man, because I can't wait for him to put out a record. This dude is dope. Him and R.A. on this song, first of all, the beat is amazing. But him and R.A., They both go in using that fast double time flow. Like they're just going like down the line, and they're not stopping. They're not even stopping for a breath. But what's so cool about that is that if you listen to everything, if you can keep up and listen to everything that they're saying in that song, even though they're rapping fast as crap, everything that they're saying has a meaning behind it. They're not just rapping a bunch of raps just to sound cool. Every rhyme that they're spitting while they're using this type of flow is connected. There's a meaning behind it. So they're not just spouting out a bunch of rhymes. Everything that they're saying is connected, man. And I thought that was amazing. And I listened to this track quite a bit, man, because sometimes I try to figure out, like, man, who was the best? Was it R.A. or was it Afro? But man, Afro really killed it, man. If you don't know who Afro is, man, go on YouTube and look up some of his videos, man. This dude is phenomenal. Like I said, I can't wait for him to drop an album. But him and R.A., man, I hope him and R.A. do an album together one day. But man, the way that that double time flow that they was using on that song, it was just so amazing. Like, I just have a hard time when I listen to that song trying to decide who did the better job. Cause I think they're equal. I think they're daggum near equal to each other on that song. So another interesting song on here is the one called Angelic Boy. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but Eminem, I think it was the song called Darkness that Eminem did on his Music to Be Murdered By album, where he was rapping from the perspective of that Vegas shooter. So you could kind of say that Angelic Boy is R.A. the Rugged Man's version of that. The song kind of sounds a little similar to what Darkness was. But if I could compare the two songs, I would say that R.A.'s Angelic Boy is better. It's better because he's not actually talking about a specific shooter or anything. He's rapping from the perspective of like a young teenage kid who's dealing with mental issues, depression and stuff, and his way of dealing with it is by going on a mass shooting spree. And there's just something about R.A.'s version of this that hits a little bit closer to home. I think R.A. was a bit more descriptive as he's describing what's going through this person's head when they're about to commit this. Like, there's one part in the song where the particular kid, he like shoots the first victim and he like vomits and he like pees on himself and everything, but then he continues to go along with it. It's a very it's a song that'll really hit you emotionally, man. The way that R.A. describes the whole situation of this person committing this crime, and then at the end of the song, R.A. talks about how when things like this happen, everybody wants to put the blame on everything except for that person that did it, which I thought was an interesting take on that, you know. And then he talks about how the news medias will grab onto these types of stories and they will exploit it, and which is what usually these types of people do when they commit these type of atrocities. They want to be famous. They want people to remember them for something. So he talks about that too as well. So between Darkness and Angelic Boy, I think R.A. was better with Angelic Boy. And I'm not trying to downgrade Eminem's Darkness song, but it's just that Angelic Boy was just a lot more descriptive. I don't know. It was just something about the way R.A. delivered that song, the way he wrote it. It just hits you closer to home. And then you have the Slayers Club, which is a huge posse cut. This is R.A. rapping with some of the greatest MCs in hip hop. He's got Lord Jamar and Side X from Brand Nubian. Ice-T is on this song. Onyx, man, there's so many artists on here. MOP is on here. He's got a bunch of artists on this song, like a lot of classic MCs. Let's see who else is on here. He got Vinny Paz, who's a frequent collaborator. He has Chris Rivers, who is that's Big Pun's son. Yeah, Chris Rivers, that's one of Big Pun's sons. And definitely check out Chris Rivers, because Chris Rivers is dope. He's another MC that's really killing it. Chino XL is on here too, man. Chino XL, a real live posse cut, and another highlight of the record. And then you have Dragonfire that features Inspector Deck. Inspector Deck's not on this song. It's Ghostface Killer, Master Killer, Coogee Rap, and an artist named Extreme. I really like that song, man, because everybody on that song slays lyrically. And I like the hook because it has that Wu-Tang, Wu-Tang. And the beat even sounds like something that Wu-Tang will rap over. And the last song that I want to talk about is one called Contradictionary, where R.A., this is a solo song with R.A., he's rapping about all like the contradictions and that happen in life. Like, one thing he pointed out was the one in the relationship that's jealous is usually the one that's cheating and stuff like that. He's basically pointing out all these contradictions that we see and that is going down in the world. So that's another cool track that I think is worth checking out. But yeah, all my heroes are dead, man. It's definitely a dope record, and it's already went down as one of the best hip hop albums of 2020. A lot of people had it on their top list, but like I said, it took me a few listens to really get into it. But for the most part, I think it's R.A.'s most complete record, and he did say that this possibly could be his final album. I hope it's not true, but if it is, it's really not a bad album. It's definitely not a bad album to go out on. All right, so last but certainly not least, we've come to the number one album, and this is Legends Never Die. Now, this was R.A.'s second official album, and it came almost 10 years after Die Rugged Man Die. And like I said, in between that, he released the Legendary Classics Volume 1, which I said was the bridge between there. The reason why I put Legends Never Die as number one is because this was the first R.A. the Rugged Man album that I bought, and it really made him one of my favorite MCs. And from the jump, when I first played this record, this CD, I was instantly sold. I was like, yo, this dude is dope, man. He's definitely one of the greatest MCs of all time. It's just a remarkable album, and he has said countless times that it was the album that he always wanted to make. And you know, it had a huge impact on me because there's one song on this album in particular that's called Shoot Me in the Head. And the reason why this song really had an impact on me was because R.A. the Rugged Man, he pretty much annihilated like both political parties. And he went in on a lot of the biased media. Like he goes in on Fox News, he goes in on MSNBC and CNN, all those biased news medias that you watch that all have political agendas. And then you got to remember this album came out during the Obama administration. So he goes in on the Obama administration. He goes in on the previous Bush administration. I think he was the first rapper to actually call Biden a racist. He goes in on Nancy Pelosi, Dick Cheney. He disses Piers Morgan. He goes in on the women of The View. He just goes in on so many people. But what really stuck out to me was when he starts talking about how the Democrats ain't ish, the Republicans ain't ish. What makes you think either party's going to change ish? That's what really stuck out to me, because when I heard that line, that's when I really kind of, in my mind, I started to think, like, you know what, he's got a point. Why are people fighting over what political party they are a part of? Both of them are crap anyway. So when he said that line, that really stuck in my head, and it really got me thinking, and that really kind of set my mind kind of thinking like, you know what? I'm not about to affiliate myself with either side. I'm just gonna be neutral. I'm just gonna be independent and do me. So that's why I really like that song. It's one of my favorite. It's probably my number one favorite R.A. the Rugged Man song. I listen to that song on a regular basis, like a lot. So that song, the way he just went in, you gotta understand, when you listen to most hip hop artists, most MCs, a lot of them tend to be they tend to lean to a certain side, when it comes to politics. Most of them tend to lean left. But R.A. the Rugged Man, he was the first MC that I ever listened to that just said, the heck with either side. They're both corrupt. And he just starts going in, and he starts pointing out all the hypocrisies and all the corruption, and, well, not all the corruption, but he just starts criticizing all the wrong things that both sides have done. So that's why that song really stuck out to me, and it's one of my favorites of all time, man. And then you have the song called Definition of Rap Flow, where this was the first time I really heard R.A. the Rugged Man start to employ like that fast double time flow, where he's rapping really fast. And also like how he pays homage to like old school golden age hip hop. And the song is a homage to like a Biz Markie song called the Albee Square Mall. And also for all my fellow metalheads out there, this album right here for me was my introduction into Mirker. If you're familiar with the black metal band, that black metal project called Mirker, the front woman, her name is Emily Brun or Brune. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her last name right. The front woman of Mirker. This was her first appearance. Well, not her first appearance, but this was my introduction into her. She's on this album quite a bit. She performs the hook on Definition of a Rap Flow, and she also does some additional background vocals on a few songs. Shoot Me in the Head, she does background vocals. And there's another song here that he does with Hobson called Underground Hicks. She also performs background vocals and the hook on that song. But yeah, this was my introduction into Mirker. And from this album, this is when I found out that she actually was the front woman of Mirker, and that she sung in a black metal band. So there's a bit of trivia for all my fellow metalheads out there. And then you have the song called Legendary, Daddy's Halo. During the recording of this record, R.A.'s dad died. So this song was written about his father, dedicated to him. R.A. talks about what his father meant to him, how much he loved him. But the highlight of the song is towards the end of the last verse. R.A. starts to break down. He starts to choke up about his father. And R.A. said that he initially was going to redo that part, but his engineer told him not to do it, to keep that in the song because it was real. And that song ended up becoming one of the highlights of the album. And then you have the song called Hallelujah, which features Tech Nine and Chris Calico. Chris Calico doesn't have a verse on the song. He just does the hook. But Tech Nine, he starts off the first verse. What's crazy about this song, though, is that even though Tech Nine had a really good verse, R.A. the Rugged Man he outshines Tech Nine on this song. If you know anything about Tech Nine, he's one of those MCs where if you do a song with Tech Nine, you better bring your A game, because he's going to outshine you on your own song. But he didn't do that with R.A. the Rugged Man. R.A. the Rugged Man had the better verse. So that should tell you the skill level of R.A. the Rugged Man as an MC, where he outshined Tech Nine. And I'm not sure if him and Tech Nine actually recorded the song in the same studio, because in this day and age, especially when this album came out in 2013, by that point, you could email your verses to people at that point. So I don't know if him and R.A. were actually in together in the studio when they recorded the song, but I do know that R.A. the Rugged Man had the better verse. And again, he uses that fast double time flow. This was the first album that I heard where R.A. the Rugged Man really employed that new well, not new, but that double time fast flow. So it's a really cool song. And then you have the one called Learn Truth, which features Talib Kweli. Him and Talib Kweli just giving you some social commentary about all the chaos and atrocities that's happening in the world. Really dope song. But I really enjoy Legends Never Die because I feel that this was the record where RA really it it was the to me it was the beginning. It introduced the new RA in some respects because he's employing these different type of styles that you didn't hear on Die Rugged Man Die, and then his subject matter changed a bit because on this album he's getting more political in some nature. He's talking about some more introspective and serious subject matter, which to me, Legends Never Die set the stage for All My Heroes Are Dead. So yeah, him talking about like politics and stuff and being real critical of certain things. That's why this is my favorite R.A. the Rugged Man album. And I think it's worth a mention though. At the end of the song, "Shoot Me in the Head," he ends it where he says that he basically says he shouldn't be talking politics. He should say that for Dead Prez and Immortal Technique. If you're familiar with Dead Prez, they're a hip hop duo that was discovered by Lord Jamar Brand Nubian. They're known for their politically charged subject matter, as well as Immortal Technique. He's another MC that's known for his very radical, politically charged subject matter. Those particular artists they're known for that since the jump started their careers. You know, R.A. the Rugged Man really wasn't known for that. He was known for being more of like a very like politically incorrect, witty type MC. But this record here in particular, you know, this was him starting to delve more into like social commentary and things of that nature, as well as like songs such as Legends Never Die. Excuse me, Legendary Daddy's Halo. He gets more introspective and personal. And there's another song on here called Still Get Through the Day, which is a bonus track. And it's a bit of a sad song, bit emotional. You know, R.A. talks about his personal life, all the struggles and the adversity that he's faced in his own life, and then he tells stories. I don't know if they're true stories, but they're things that really happen in life, like different adversities that people face. But the whole point of the song is that no matter how rough life gets, you still can. It's a hopeful song. It's called "Still Get Through the Day." You still make it. You still get through. If you can make it through it, then you're good. So and I think that's another reason why this album is my favorite, because that's the whole underlying theme of this record of Legends Never Die. Because he starts the album off with an intro saying that, you know, life is a beautiful thing. You just got to get through it. That's the underlying theme of this whole record, is like, no matter what struggles and adversities that you face, you still got to stand up and you still got to get through it. You know what I mean? I think that's why this record is so personal to me, and why I really hold it at such high acclaim, and why I had to put it at number one, because it's just an awesome record, man, and I really enjoy it. And you know, honestly, man, I recommend Legends Never Die for anybody that would like to get into R.A. the Rugged Man, because it's just a wonderful album. It's the album that got me into him. It's the album that set me on the path to really digging into R.A.'s career and his discography and what he brings to the table as an MC. But yeah, that's my albums ranked episode of R.A. the Rugged Man. This is my first albums ranked episode. I hope you all enjoyed this. And like I said, if you're not familiar with R.A. the Rugged Man, I hope that this episode will set any of you guys on this page to go check out and dig his music, because he's definitely one of the greatest MCs in hip hop. I definitely believe deserves more recognition and needs to be heard more. He's man, he's one of the dopest MCs in hip hop. He's a lyricist, man, and he's a bold artist, man. He's not afraid to say what he wants to say. I respect that about him. And he's got a good body of work, man. I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of albums to his credit, but he doesn't have a bad record. He doesn't have a bad album at all. I think that anybody can listen to his record and they will enjoy it. And his albums, they all have kind of like that underlying theme where he's like, well, yeah, I went through all of this, but look where I'm at now. He's not afraid to talk about his struggle as an artist and what he went through. I just really dig his content. I really dig the witty, like controversial, politically incorrect stuff that he says, because, we live in an age now where censorship is so prominent or dominant, where people are afraid to say what they want to say, and R.A.'s not one of those artists. And I mean, he's an underground artist, or independent artist, so he can do that. He can say what he wants to say, man. And, he's definitely one of my favorite MCs and one of my favorite lyricists in hip hop. And I just wanted to share this to hopefully maybe inspire somebody else out there that may be looking for some new music, some new hip hop music or whatever to check out, to go dig into R.A. the Rugged Man, because I definitely not going to steer you wrong to anything that's terrible. But I hope you all enjoyed this episode, this album's ranked episode. Definitely look out for some more albums ranked episodes. And thank you all for tuning in and checking out another episode of the Boombox Guru. This is your boy LB, and I'm out. Peace. What's good, everybody? Hope you enjoyed this new episode of the Boombox Guru. And if you did enjoy this episode, I want you guys to do me a favor. I want you to follow me on Spotify at the Boombox Guru. Check it out on Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Public. You can also follow my Instagram page at the Boombox Guru. You can also like my page on Facebook, known as the Boombox Guru. Just go ahead and check me out. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell anybody that you know that might be interested in this type of content about the Boombox Guru. And as always, hope everyone has a lovely day and be blessed.